There is a man watching this right now who cooked dinner tonight and nobody said thank you. Who paid the bill this morning that nobody even knew was overdue? Who sat in his car for 10 minutes before walking inside because he needed just 10 minutes where nobody needed anything from him? And the worst part is not that you are tired. The worst part is that if you disappeared tomorrow, the first thing they would notice is not you. It would be the things you do. That is not love. That is a service agreement. And you never signed up for it. If that hit you somewhere, you are not expecting stay with me. Because 600 years ago, an Islamic scholar named Ibn Khaldun figured out exactly why this happens. Not just in marriages, not just in families, but in entire civilizations. And what he discovered will change the way you see every relationship you have ever been taken for granted in. Ibn Khaldun was born in 1332 in Tunis. He lived through plague, political betrayal, exile, and the collapse of dynasties. He watched empires rise and fall. And in his masterpiece, the Muqaddimah, he asked a question that no historian before him had dared to ask. Why do the strongest groups destroy themselves? His answer was a concept called Asabiyyah. Asabiyyah is the Arabic word for social solidarity. It is the invisible glue that holds a group together. A family, a tribe, a marriage, a nation. When Asabiyyah is strong, people sacrifice for each other. They protect each other. They see each other's effort and they honor it. But here is what Ibn Khaldun discovered that shook the intellectual world. Asabiyyah does not get destroyed by enemies. It gets destroyed by comfort. When a group becomes comfortable, when survival is no longer in question because one person has been carrying the weight so well that life feels easy, the people inside that group stop valuing the sacrifice that made their comfort possible. They start to feel entitled to it. They stop seeing the man who provides and start seeing only the provision. And the man who built everything slowly becomes invisible inside the very structure he created. Let that sink in. Because that is not ancient history. That is your Tuesday. This leads us to the first principle, the Asabiyyah Erosion Principle. Here is what it says. The more effectively you remove struggle from someone's life, the less they value you, and the more they believe they were entitled to that ease all along. Ibn Khaldun saw this in dynasties. The first generation fights in the desert. They are hungry, loyal, sharp. They build something from nothing. The second generation remembers the struggle, but did not live it. They still have some respect. The third generation was born into comfort. They have never known the desert. And they look at the man still working and think he's the problem, because he reminds them of a hardship they want to forget. Now think about your life. You have been the first generation in your own home. You carried the weight. You worked the overtime. You bit your tongue when you were disrespected because you told yourself a real man just handles it. And slowly, the people you love started treating your sacrifice like furniture. It was just there. It was always going to be there. Why would they thank the floor for holding them up? But you are not the floor. You are a man. And a man who is treated like infrastructure instead of a human being will eventually crack in ways that no one in that house is ready for. You do not have a gratitude problem in your home. You have an Asabiyyah problem. The solidarity has eroded. And it eroded not because you failed. It eroded because you succeeded so quietly that no one heard the cost. Now let me take you deeper. Ibn Khaldun observed something else. When Asabiyyah collapses in a civilization, the people at the center, the ones who benefited most from the solidarity, do not try to repair it. They do something far worse. They mock the man who is trying to hold things together. They call him controlling. They call him boring. They call him too serious. They rewrite the story so that his sacrifices are reframed as his personal choice, something he wanted to do. Something that was never asked of him. Sound familiar? You have heard the words. Nobody told you to do all that. You chose to work that much. Why are you making this about you? And that is where good men break. Not when the work is hard, not when the money is tight, but when the narrative gets stolen from them, when the story of their sacrifice gets rewritten by the very people they sacrificed for. This is the second principle, the comfort collapse law. It says this: the people who benefit most from your strength will be the first to deny it existed. Because acknowledging your sacrifice would mean acknowledging their debt. And most people would rather rewrite history than feel like they owe someone. Ibn Khaldun watched this happen to dynasties that lasted 300 years. You are watching it happen in your living room. So what do? You do what Ibn Khaldun says the desert tribes did when they watched civilizations rot from within. You return to your own Asabiyyah, not the groups, yours. You rebuild solidarity with yourself. That means you stop measuring your worth by other people's ability to recognize it. You stop performing sacrifice for an audience that has already left the theater. You start redirecting your energy toward the only person who has never once taken you for granted. And that is the man who stares back at you in the mirror at 5 in the morning when nobody else is awake. This is not about becoming selfish. This is not about punishing your family or your partner. This is about understanding a law of human nature that one of the greatest minds in Islamic intellectual history documented 6 centuries ago. When you give without boundary, you do not create gratitude. You create expectation. And expectation left unchecked becomes entitlement. And entitlement is where love goes to die. So here is what you do starting tonight. You stop apologizing for having needs. You stop pretending you're fine when you're running on empty. You start putting the same energy into your own growth, your own health, your own ambitions that you have been pouring into everyone else's comfort. Not because you do not love them, but because Ibn Khaldun taught us that a man with no solidarity with himself has nothing real to offer anyone. The desert tribes were not strong because they were harsh. They were strong because they knew their own value before anyone else confirmed it. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are a good man who made the mistake of thinking that if you gave enough, they would eventually see you. But people do not see what is always there. They see what is suddenly gone. So let them notice the absence, not out of spite, out of self-respect. Rebuilding starts when you stop setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. And finally sit in your own cold long enough to remember that you matter too. If you made it to this point in the video, you did not find this by accident. This found you because you needed to hear it. I'll see you in the next video, brother. Stay disciplined.